Welcome to the Deep Dive, where we take a stack of information and really try to extract the most important nuggets of knowledge or insight for you. Today, we're plunging into a topic that touches pretty much everyone: how to achieve financial freedom. What does that actually mean, though, and is it, truly within reach for all of us?
Yeah, it's a concept that's often misunderstood, isn't it? Some people see it as only for the super rich or maybe think it means be incredibly restrictive. But as our sources reveal, financial freedom is really less about a specific dollar amount. It's more about a state of control, real choice in your life. It's about getting to that point where your passive income, money you earn without actively working day to day, actually exceeds your expenses. That gives you the autonomy to live your ideal life without necessarily needing that traditional job.
Yeah, that's a really powerful vision. Okay, so for this deep dive, we've pulled from a whole stack of diverse sources. We've got insights on frugal living from some, well, surprisingly wealthy figures, a really comprehensive look at different passive income streams, some crucial advice on avoiding common money mistakes, and importantly, practical steps for building things like an emergency fund and tackling debt.
Right. Our mission here is basically to cut through all the noise, give you clear, actionable strategies, and maybe offer some surprising perspectives on what it actually means to be financially secure, even, financially free, no matter where you are on your journey right now.
Okay, so before we jump into the nitty-gritty, the practical steps, let's maybe establish a foundational understanding. What exactly is this financial freedom, and why is financial literacy just understanding money? Why is that so crucial?
Well, at its core, financial freedom means having enough cash and investments to comfortably cover your cost of living. Simple as that, really. It's that point when income from your own businesses or assets, that passive income we mentioned, is actually more than what you spend. And that state, that's what grants you the autonomy, the freedom to pursue your ideal life.
It sounds amazing, almost like a dream for some people, I imagine. But what really struck me in our sources was this point that just having a degree or reading a best-selling money book or even earning a good salary, it's not enough by itself. It's like having all the ingredients, but no recipe, right?
Exactly. That's a great analogy. And a key reason many people struggle, according to what we've read, is simply not having a clear financial goal. If you don't know your current financial phase, are you living paycheck to paycheck? Are you gaining traction, maybe saved a month's expenses? Or do you have that peace of mind with a full emergency fund? Or are you actively striving for freedom? Without knowing that, it's really easy to make impulsive decisions that just steer you off course. So financial literacy becomes the bedrock. It's the ability to understand and, importantly, use financial skills effectively. Budgeting, investing. It guards you against fraud, helps you plan. It empowers everything else.
Okay, let's talk about frugal living, because when people hear that phrase, they often picture, extreme deprivation, pinching every penny until it screams. But our sources paint a totally different picture, especially when you look at some of the world's wealthiest individuals. It's more about a mindset than misery.
That's absolutely spot on. Frugal living is described much more as a mindful approach. Managing expenses, yes, but really focusing on your financial priorities. It's about analyzing spending decisions, maybe even considering sustainability. And it's definitely not just a trend for millennials or Gen Z. It's, like you said, it's deeply ingrained in figures with immense wealth. The core insight, I think, is that real wealth often isn't built by just spending lavishly. It's built by controlling where your money goes intentionally.
And what really highlights this, it's fascinating, is looking at the habits of actual billionaires. We're talking about people like Bill Gates, worth about $132 billion, known for wearing a $10 watch. Or Mark Zuckerberg, around $130 billion, drives a $30,000 car. He even held his wedding in his backyard. It's quite something.
Right. And then there's Warren Buffett, net worth around $113 billion back in 2023, still living in the same modest house he bought way back in 1958. Jim Walton, from the Walmart family, prefers a practical Dodge Dakota truck. Not exactly a fleet of luxury cars. Even someone like Keanu Reeves, a huge movie star worth $350 million, uses public transport. And famously gave away huge sums to the crew on The Matrix. These aren't just like quirky anecdotes. They're powerful examples showing that huge wealth doesn't automatically mean extravagant spending. The real takeaway seems to be that their spending aligns with their values, perhaps, not just societal expectations of what rich people should do.
So how do we translate that billionaire mindset into, our lives? Our sources give some really practical tips. It's about adopting that mindful approach. Things like avoiding unnecessary spending, obviously, engaging in affordable hobbies, choosing comfort and practicality over pure luxury and housing, selling unused items, declutter and make cash, using discounts diligently. buying energy-efficient products, which saves money long-term, tracking expenses monthly, knowing where it goes, maybe producing some of your own food if you can, prioritizing quality over quantity so things last, and, crucially, consistently saving and investing. The key mindset really is understanding that, yeah, maybe some sacrifices now can lead to a much more secure, much freer future. Okay, so one of the absolute most critical steps on this path, maybe even before you dive deep into investing, is setting up an emergency fund. Why is the safety net so vital?
Well, think of it as your essential financial cushion. It's for life's inevitable curveballs, right? Unexpected medical bills, maybe your car breaks down, urgent home repairs, even losing your job. Its main job is to stop you from having to take on unplanned debt, usually high-interest debt, or, maybe worse, raiding your retirement savings. Both of those things can just dig you into a really deep financial hole fast.
Yeah, that makes sense. And a 2024 Bankrate survey really highlighted this need. It found only 44% of Americans could cover a $1,000 emergency just from savings. And 63% felt inflation was actually hurting their ability to save for those emergencies. So, okay, for someone listening wanting to build this cushion, how much should they aim for? Is there a magic number?
There's no single magic number. But a good general rule of thumb is aiming for 3 to 6 months worth of your essential living expenses. Not your total income, but what you absolutely need to cover basics. Now that amount can vary. If you have dependents, or if you're self-employed with variable income, or you're the sole earner, you might want to lean towards the higher end, maybe even more than 6 months. On the flip side, if you have a spouse with a stable job, or maybe a very strong family support network, you might feel comfortable with a bit less. It's personal.
Right, tailored to your situation. Okay, practicalities then. How do you actually build this fund, step by step?
Our sources lay out 5 pretty clear steps. 1, choose the right account. Think a basic savings account or maybe a money market account. They sometimes offer slightly better interest. The key is accessibility. Ideally linked to your checking, but separate enough so you don't dip into it for everyday stuff. And crucially, not invested in stocks or bonds. You need this money stable and available, no market risk.
Okay, accessible but separate. Got it. What's next?
2, look for an account that pays you back a bit, like a high-yield savings account. You can often find these at online banks, and they offer significantly higher interest rates than typical brick-and-mortar banks. FDIC insured, so it's safe.
Makes sense. Get a little return while it sits there.
Exactly. 3, start small, but automate it. Don't feel like you have to save this huge chunk all at once. Set up automatic transfers, even small amounts from your paycheck, directly into that emergency fund. Consistency is what builds the habit. Starting small helps you stick with it, lets it grow over time, almost without you noticing.
Right, making it automatic takes the willpower out of it. Okay, step 4.
4, define emergency strictly and stick to it. Only tap this account for true emergencies. A car accident deductible, sudden job loss, a burst pipe flooding the kitchen, a large unexpected medical bill. Definitely not for impulse buys or concert tickets or that new gadget you want. Discipline here is key.
Okay, tempting as it might be. And the last step.
5, always replenish it. If you do have to use some of the money and life happens, you probably will make rebuilding that fund a top priority again. Get it back up to your target level so it's ready for the next unexpected event. It's really an ongoing cycle of protection.
Okay, so you've got that crucial emergency fund sorted. The next major hurdle for a lot of people on this path to freedom is debt. It can feel just incredibly overwhelming. But our sources offer some clear strategies here, too.
Yeah, and the interesting thing is that the best way to pay off debt often depends on your specific situation, mainly your debt load compared to your income. You really need to look at that first. But generally speaking, consumer debt, think high-interest credit cards, maybe personal loans, car loans, that should usually be the priority because it's typically the most expensive kind of debt. It costs you the most over time.
Right. Tackle the costly stuff first. So for someone wanting to do this themselves, a DIY approach, what are some of the most effective strategies that came up?
Well, there are a few really popular methods, and they each have their own kind of psychological or mathematical advantages. First, there's the debt snowball. With this one, you focus on paying off your smallest debt balance first, regardless of the interest rate. You make minimum payments on everything else, throw extra cash at the smallest one. Once that smallest debt is gone, you take the money you were paying on it, the minimum plus the extra, and add it to the minimum payment on the next smallest debt.
Ah, so you get these quick wins, right? Seeing debts disappear must feel good.
Exactly. That's the big benefit, the psychological boost, the motivation. You see progress quickly, which helps you stick with it.
Okay, that's the snowball. What's the alternative?
The main alternative is the debt avalanche. This method focuses on paying off the debt with the highest interest rate first, again, regardless of the balance size. Minimum payments on everything else, extra cash goes to the highest rate debt. Once that high interest debt is gone, you take all the money you were paying on it and attack the debt with the next highest interest rate.
So this one saves you more money in the long run, I assume, because you're tackling the most expensive debt first.
Precisely. Mathematically, the debt avalanche will save you the most money on interest over the total repayment period. It's the most financially efficient way.
But maybe slower to see the first debt disappear if your highest interest debt is also a large one.
Correct. You might not get those quick wins like the snowball provides.
Interesting trade-off there. Motivation versus pure math. Any other strategies?
Yeah, another related strategy focuses on lowering your credit utilization. That's the amount of credit you're using compared to your total available credit limit on, say, your credit cards. Here, you'd prioritize paying down the cards where the balance is closest to the credit limit, the ones with the highest utilization percentage. Doing this can significantly improve your credit score fairly quickly, which has other benefits.
So snowball for motivation, avalanche for saving money, and targeting utilization for credit score boosts. How do people choose? And what about bigger steps like consolidating debt?
A lot of sources recommend the avalanche for its efficiency, but they almost always acknowledge the power of the snowball psychology. It really boils down to knowing yourself what will keep you motivated to stick with the plan. Beyond those, yes, debt consolidation is a major option. This basically means combining multiple high-interest debts into a single monthly payment, ideally with a lower overall interest rate.
How does that work usually?
Common ways are using a balance transfer credit card, often with a 0% introductory APR period, but watch out for fees and the rate after the intro period ends. Or taking out a debt consolidation loan, a personal loan used specifically to pay off other debts. The goal is to lower your interest rate, make payments more manageable with just one bill, and potentially shorten your payoff time. But you usually need a pretty good credit score, think 690 or higher, to qualify for the best consolidation options.
Are there risks with consolidation?
Definitely. The biggest risk is that you might feel like you've solved the problem without changing the spending habits that led to the debt. You free up credit lines and might be tempted to run up balances again. Also, some consolidation methods are riskier than others. Borrowing from your 401k retirement plan, for example, or taking out a home equity loan. These use your retirement savings or your house as collateral. If you can't repay, you risk losing those vital assets. That's generally advised against, unless it's a last resort.
Okay, very important warnings there. And what if the debt just feels completely overwhelming, like truly a mountain that seems impossible to climb alone?
Yeah, there's a point where DIY might not be enough. If your unsecured debt, that's debt not backed by collateral, like credit cards, medical bills, personal loans, if that equals 50% or more of your gross annual income, or if you just calculate that you realistically can't pay it off within 5 years using methods like the snowball or avalanche, then professional debt relief options might be necessary.
What do those look like?
Options include working with an accredited nonprofit credit counseling agency. They can help you create a budget and potentially set up a debt management program, DMP. In a DMP, you make one payment to the agency and they distribute it to your creditors, often at negotiated lower interest rates. More serious options, if the situation is dire, could include debt settlement, where a company negotiates with your creditors to let you pay back less than you owe, though this can severely damage your credit, or, as a last resort, bankruptcy. These have significant long-term consequences and require careful consideration, usually with legal advice.
Right, so lots of layers to debt management. Okay, moving on. After getting spending under control, building that emergency fund, and starting to tackle debt, the next really big piece of this financial freedom puzzle is making your money work for you. This is where passive income comes in. But like you said earlier, this term gets misunderstood a lot.
It really does. Many people hear passive income and think it means, getting something for nothing, effortless money pouring in. The core insight here, though, is that while the income might be passive once things are set up, getting there usually isn't. The IRS definition generally points to things like rental property income or earnings from a business you don't actively run day to day, like book royalties or stock dividends. But in practice, especially when you're starting out, it almost always involves a significant upfront investment that could be capital, actual money, or it could be a lot of your time and effort, or leveraging specialized knowledge you have. And often, there's ongoing maintenance required too. So yeah, definitely not a get-rich-quick scheme. Maybe think of it more as a get-rich-slow and smart strategy.
That's a really crucial distinction. Effort upfront for potential rewards later. Okay, knowing it's not effortless, how can our listeners start exploring this? Our sources broke down a lot of ideas into different categories. Maybe let's start with some of the creative avenues.
Sure. For creatively inclined folks, there are several options. One is writing an ebook. Doesn't have to be a massive novel. Sources mentioned even 30, 50 pages can work. You can leverage platforms like Amazon Kindle Direct Publishing for easy distribution. The opportunity isn't just the direct sales income, which might be modest initially, but it can also drive traffic to maybe a blog, a course, or other services you offer. The risk: significant time writing and editing upfront, with potentially little return if you don't market it effectively.
Right, the marketing is key. What else for creatives?
Selling photography online. If you're a decent photographer, platforms like Getty Images, Shutterstock, Alamy, Adobe Stock, they let you license your photos. People pay to download and use them, and you get a cut. The nice thing is scalability. You can sell the same image multiple times. The challenge is finding subjects that are in demand, producing high-quality work consistently, and, frankly, staying motivated to keep shooting and uploading.
Okay, photos. How about something more techy?
Creating an app. This could be a game or some kind of utility app. The potential upside here is huge if it catches on and goes viral. You can monetize through the purchase price, in-app purchases, or ads. The major risk, though, is the massive time investment in development, often with little or no payoff in a very, very crowded app market. And even successful apps can have a pretty short lifespan in terms of popularity.
High risk, high reward potential there. What about content creation?
Absolutely. Building a blog or a YouTube channel. Share your passion, your expertise on a topic. Once you build an audience, you can monetize through display ads like Google AdSense, affiliate marketing, which we can talk more about later, sponsored content, or selling your own digital products. The big opportunity here is leveraging free platforms like YouTube or WordPress to build a following around something you love. The challenge: it requires consistent, high-quality content creation over a long period and real patience before it starts generating significant income. It's a marathon, not a sprint.
Definitely takes time. One more creative one.
Sure, selling designs online. Think t-shirts, mugs, phone cases, etc. Businesses like Redbubble, Cafe Press, Zazzle, merch by Amazon. They allow you to upload your designs. When someone buys an item with your design, the company handles production, shipping, customer service, and you get a royalty. This avoids the risk of you having to buy and hold inventory. You can potentially capitalize on current events or news trends, but it still requires time to create compelling designs and understand what kind of things actually sell in the market.
Okay, lots of creative routes, all needing upfront work. Now, shifting gears to investing. This is often what people think of first with passive income, maybe the most truly passive form once the money is in.
Yeah, that's generally true, although the initial research and decision-making require effort too. Here are some key investment-based options that came up. Dividend stocks. Probably the classic example. You own shares in companies that pay out a portion of their profits to shareholders, usually quarterly. Once you own the stock, the income arrives regularly without you doing anything. It's highly passive in that sense. The tricky part: choosing the right companies, stable ones with a history of paying and potentially growing dividends. It's risky to put all your eggs in one basket.
So how do you manage that risk?
Diversification is key. Many sources recommend using exchange-traded funds, ETFs, that focus on dividend-paying stocks. These funds hold shares in maybe dozens or hundreds of companies, spreading your risk significantly. But even then, there are risks. Companies can cut or suspend their dividends, especially during economic downturns. And of course, the value of the stocks themselves can go up or down significantly.
Right, dividends aren't guaranteed. What about bonds?
Bonds are another core passive income source. One strategy mentioned is building a bond ladder. This involves buying a series of individual bonds, basically loans to a government or a company, that matures different times. Say, one bond matures in 1 year, another in 2, another in 3, and so on. You collect regular interest payments, coupons, from the bonds. When a bond matures, you get your principal back, and you can reinvest it into a new bond at the long end of your ladder, maybe a 5-year or 10-year bond, depending on your strategy. This provides a steady stream of income and helps manage interest rate risk.
What are the risks with bonds?
With corporate bonds, there's default risk the company might not be able to pay you back. That's why government bonds, like U.S. Treasuries, are considered much safer. The other main risk is interest rate risk. If interest rates rise after you buy a bond, the market value of your existing bond might fall if you needed to sell it before maturity. Again, bond ETFs can help diversify away the risk of any single bond defaulting.
Okay, stocks and bonds. What about simpler, safer options?
Definitely. High-yield savings accounts or certificates of deposit, CDs. We touched on high-yield savings for emergency funds, but they can be used for passive income too. They offer much better interest rates than traditional savings accounts, especially at online banks. CDs offer a fixed interest rate for a set term, for example, 1 year, 5 years. You lock your money away for that period, but you get a predictable return. Both high-yield savings and CDs are typically FDIC insured up to $250,000 per depositor per bank, making them very safe. The main downside is that the returns, while safe, might not always keep pace with inflation, meaning your purchasing power could erode over time.
Safe but potentially low real returns. Got it. Any others in the investment space? Annuities came up, didn't they?
Yes, annuities. These are insurance contracts. You typically make payments to an insurance company, either a lump sum or over time, and in return, they promise to make payments back to you in the future. This future income stream can be for a set number of years or even for the rest of your life. They are highly passive once set up and can offer very predictable income, especially fixed annuities. Payouts can be customized in various ways, the main drawbacks. Annuities can be complex, often come with high fees or commissions, and your money is usually locked in for a long time with surrender charges if you need it early. They require careful research.
Complex. Okay. What about newer things like peer-to-peer lending?
Peer-to-peer, P2P lending. This involves lending money directly to individuals or small businesses through online platforms like Prosper or Lending Club. You, as the lender, can fund small portions of many different loans, earning interest as borrowers repay. It offers potentially higher returns than savings accounts or CDs, but it's definitely not entirely passive. You generally need to actively choose which loans to invest in or at least set criteria, diversifying your portfolio across many borrowers to mitigate risk. And the biggest risk is default risk borrowers might not repay their loans, especially during economic downturns. You could lose your principal.
Higher potential return, but more risk and effort. Makes sense. Two more niche ones mentioned were municipal bond funds and preferred stock.
Right. Municipal bond closed-end funds. These funds invest in municipal bonds, those bonds issued by state and local governments to finance public projects like schools or highways. A key attraction is that the dividend income they pay out is often exempt from federal income tax, and sometimes state and local taxes too, which is great for high earners. Closed-end funds are a specific structure that often uses leverage, borrowed money, to try and boost returns. This can enhance income, but it also magnifies volatility. If interest rates rise or defaults increase, the fund's value can drop sharply.
So tax advantages, but potentially higher volatility due to leverage and preferred stock.
Preferred stock. This is kind of a hybrid between a stock and a bond. It represents ownership in a company like common stock, but it usually pays a fixed dividend, similar to a bond's interest payment. These dividends must be paid out before any dividends can be paid to common stockholders, making them generally more secure. Preferred stocks trade on exchanges, so their prices fluctuate, often inversely with interest rates, similar to bonds. They typically offer higher dividend yields than the company's common stock or bonds. Again, diversifying through a preferred stock ETF can reduce the risk associated with any single company.
Okay, a lot of options in the investing world, from simple savings to more complex funds. Let's shift to real estate. That's often seen as a major path to passive income, though sometimes maybe more active than people realize.
Absolutely, that's a key point in the sources. Direct rental income from owning properties can be very effective, but it often requires significant work. You're not just collecting rent. You're a landlord. You need to find tenants, screen them, handle maintenance and repairs, deal with vacancies, potentially evictions. It's a business. You have to carefully calculate potential returns, factoring in costs like property taxes, insurance, maintenance, and financing. Challenges are numerous: late paying tenants, unexpected expensive repairs, property damage, market downturns affecting rent levels or property values. It can be rewarding, but it's rarely truly passive, especially at first.
Right, being a landlord is definitely a job. What about less hands-on real estate options?
Yes, there are ways to invest in real estate more passively. One growing area is crowd-funded real estate. Platforms like Fundrise, CrowdStreet, and others allow individuals to pool their money to invest in large real estate projects, apartment buildings, office complexes, etc., chosen and managed by experienced teams. This gives you access to potentially lucrative private real estate deals without the headaches of direct management. You can often diversify across multiple properties or projects with relatively small investment amounts. The risks. Past performance of the platform or specific deals doesn't guarantee future returns. Your money is often illiquid, meaning it might be locked up for several years, and you're relying on the expertise of the platform's management team.
So easier access, but less control and liquidity. How about REITs?
REITs, or real estate investment trusts. These are companies that own, operate, or finance income-producing real estate across a range of sectors: apartments, shopping malls, data centers, warehouses, hotels, you name it. The key thing about REITs is that they are legally required to pay out at least 90% of their taxable income to shareholders as dividends. This makes them attractive for income investors. And importantly, most REITs are traded on major stock exchanges, just like regular stocks. So they offer liquidity. You can buy and sell shares easily. Like with individual stocks, investing in a single REIT can be risky. So REIT ETFs that hold a basket of many different REITs are a popular way to get diversified exposure to the real estate market passively.
Liquid diversified potential. That sounds appealing. One more real estate one, maybe more personal.
Yes, short-term home rental. This is basically renting out your own space, maybe a spare room, or your entire home when you're away on platforms like Airbnb or Vrbo. If you have the space available, it can generate income with relatively minimal extra work beyond cleaning and communication, especially if you already own the property. The primary risk: you're letting strangers into your home. There's potential for damage, theft, or other issues. You need good insurance and vetting processes.
Right, definitely need to be comfortable with that. Okay, we've covered creative, investing, real estate, any other sort of intriguing avenues for passive income that popped up in the sources?
Yeah, there were a few others worth mentioning, kind of a mixed bag. Affiliate marketing. We touched on this with blogs YouTube. It involves promoting other companies' products or services on your website, social media, or email list using unique tracking links. When someone clicks your link and makes a purchase, you earn a commission. This requires building a significant, trusting audience first. Getting enough traffic to generate substantial income can take a lot of time and effort in content creation and promotion.
So audience first, then monetization. Similar vein, maybe.
Sponsored posts on social media. If you do manage to build a strong, engaged following on platforms like Instagram, TikTok, or YouTube, brands may pay you directly to feature their products or services in your posts or videos. Again, the big challenge is building that large, authentic audience in the first place, and then continuously creating content to keep them engaged and satisfy sponsors.
Right, the influencer route. What about something really passive, like involving your car?
Yeah. Advertising on your car. There are specialized agencies that will pay you to wrap your car in advertisements for a company. They usually pay based on mileage driven or sometimes a flat monthly fee. It's pretty low effort if you're already driving a lot anyway. The big caveat here is to be very cautious of scams. Legitimate companies usually don't ask you to pay anything up front for the wrap or insurance. Do thorough research.
Good warning. Okay, something requiring a bit more hustle.
Flipping retail products, sometimes called retail arbitrage. This involves finding discounted items, maybe of clearance sales, thrift stores, or outlets, and then reselling them for a profit online, typically on platforms like eBay or Amazon FBA, Fulfillment by Amazon. This definitely requires hustle, time spent sourcing products, listing them, shipping them, unless using FBA. It also requires some upfront capital to buy the inventory and knowledge of what products are in demand and will sell for a profit. Not entirely passive, but can generate income streams.
Okay, buy low, sell high, but with effort. What about creating something digital once and selling it many times?
Yes, creating a digital course. Similar to an ebook, but usually in audio or video format. Develop a course based on your expertise or skills and sell it on platforms like Udemy, Skillshare, Teachable, or even your own website. After the significant initial effort of creating high-quality course content, it can become a great passive income stream, selling over and over. But success usually requires ongoing marketing, maybe updates to the course content, and often a single course isn't enough for a sustainable business. You might need multiple products or services.
Makes sense. Two more quick ones: renting out stuff you already own.
Exactly. Rent out a parking space. If you have an unused driveway spot or garage space, especially if you live in a high-demand area like near a city center, train station, or major venue, you can rent it out monthly or even daily using specialized apps or websites. Generally low risk and low effort if the space is just sitting there. Just check any local regulations or HOA rules and think about liability.
Simple but potentially effective. And the last one.
Rent out useful household items. Think about things you own that other people might only need occasionally, but are expensive to buy, maybe power tools, a high-quality tent and camping gear, large coolers for parties, a carpet cleaner. Platforms exist for this too, or you can do it locally. Low risk if you already own the items, but you need to consider potential damage, theft, insurance, and the effort of coordinating pickups and drop-offs.
Wow, okay. That is a huge range of passive income options, from writing ebooks to renting out your parking spot. With all these choices, how does someone even begin to figure out which path is right for them?
That really is the million-dollar question, isn't it? And the answer, according to our sources, really comes down to aligning your choice with your personal resources and preferences. You need to consider, how much money do you realistically have to invest right now? What's the potential size of the opportunity for a particular stream? What are your genuine interests in existing skills or abilities? And crucially, how much time are you willing and able to commit up front to get it going? The core insight seems to be this. If you have little to no money, you basically substitute your time and expertise for capital. You leverage what you know to create digital products, build an audience online, maybe offer a service that becomes more passive over time. If you do have capital available, you can lean towards the more truly passive activities, investing in dividend stocks or ETFs, buying bonds, putting money in high-yield savings or CDs, maybe investing in crowd-funded real estate or REITs. Ultimately, as Greg McBride from Bankrate put it quite nicely, having multiple income streams is like fishing with multiple lines in the water. You're more likely to catch something, you build resilience if one stream dries up, and it can really accelerate your journey towards that financial freedom goal.
Multiple lines in the water. I like that. Okay, so we've covered spending wisely, building that safety net, tackling debt, generating passive income. What comes next? It feels like achieving freedom isn't the end, right? You have to maintain it. It's an ongoing journey, not just a destination you arrive at.
You've absolutely hit on a critical point there about longevity and adaptation. Financial goals aren't something you just set once and forget. Life changes. You need to regularly review and adjust your financial plan. At least once a year is a good baseline, but maybe more often if you have significant life events, getting married, having children, changing careers, receiving an inheritance, even just major shifts in the economy or market conditions. Your plan needs to evolve with your life.
And how can you make sticking to that evolving plan, well, easier? Especially when life gets busy and it's easy to let things slide.
Automation is your friend here. We mentioned it for emergency funds, but it's key for long-term investing too. Setting up automatic transfers from your paycheck or checking account directly into your retirement accounts like a 401k or a Roth IRA.
A Roth IRA being that account where you contribute after-tax money and then qualified withdrawals in retirement are tax-free.
Exactly. Automating contributions to those or to your brokerage account for other investments or even just to a high-yield savings account for other goals. It helps build consistent habits. It essentially forces you to pay yourself first and significantly reduces the temptation to spend that money elsewhere because it's gone before you really see it. It takes a lot of the day-to-day decision-making burden off your shoulders.
Takes the friction out of saving and investing. Makes sense. What about getting help? All these options, the planning, the adjustments, it can feel overwhelming for people to manage on their own.
Yeah, and that's where the role of professional guidance could be really crucial. Financial advisors can help you navigate the complexity, manage your finances effectively, plan strategically for long-term goals, and just generally stay on track. They offer expert advice tailored to your situation on things like investment allocation, retirement planning, insurance needs, tax efficiency strategies, the whole picture.
What should people look for if they're considering an advisor?
Look for qualifications and alignment of interests. Certified financial planners, CFPs, are often recommended because they have rigorous training, ethical standards, and are certified to provide holistic financial planning advice. It's also important to understand how they get paid. Are they fee only, meaning they're paid directly by you, not via commissions on products they sell, fee-based, a mix, or commission-based? Fee-only advisors generally have fewer potential conflicts of interest and, of course, find someone you trust and feel comfortable working with.
Good advice. Okay, finally, there's one more piece that our sources highlighted, often overlooked, but really essential, especially as you start to build actual wealth. And that's estate planning. It sounds kind of formal, maybe something only for the really rich.
That's a common misconception. But the fundamental insight here is that estate planning is not just for the extremely wealthy. It's actually a critical part of ensuring financial security and, frankly, peace of mind for your loved ones, regardless of your net worth. Essentially, it involves preparing for how your assets will be managed and distributed after your death, or if you become unable to make decisions for yourself.
So what does that typically involve?
Key components usually include creating a will, which outlines how you want your property distributed and names guardians for minor children. It might also involve setting up trusts, which are legal arrangements that can hold assets for beneficiaries, potentially offering more control, privacy, or protection from creditors or taxes than a will alone. It also includes designating beneficiaries directly on accounts like retirement plans and life insurance policies. These designations often override what's in your will. And planning for incapacity through documents like a durable power of attorney for financial decisions and a healthcare proxy or living will for medical decisions.
Why is this so important for financial freedom?
Because it ensures your wishes are honored. It helps protect the assets you've worked hard to build from unnecessary probate court costs or delays, potential family disputes, and possibly estate taxes, though thresholds are currently high for federal taxes. It provides for your family's future financial security in an organized way. Ultimately, it gives you control over your legacy, which is the key component of that feeling of freedom and security, even extending beyond your lifetime.
Wow. Okay, we have really covered a remarkable amount of ground today, from the surprisingly frugal habits of billionaires all the way through to these many, many ways you can build passive income, and hitting those critical points about tackling debt, building safety nets, and planning for the unexpected, even planning for what happens after we're gone. It really underscores that the journey to financial freedom is, well, it's multifaceted, isn't it? It requires those clear goals, that disciplined spending, a strong safety net, smart investing, and crucially, that consistent ongoing management and adaptation.
Absolutely. And I think what truly stands out weaving through all our sources is the power of consistency. How seemingly small, regular actions, whether it's just mindfully saying no to an unnecessary purchase or setting up that $50 automatic transfer each week, how those actions compound over time. They build momentum, they build habits, and eventually they create profound financial security. It really seems to boil down to being intentional, doesn't it? Intentional with every dollar and intentional with every financial decision.
Being intentional, I like that. So as we wrap up, what does this all mean for you, the listener, as you reflect on your own financial journey? There's a quote from John Bogle. He founded Vanguard, and the first index fund available to the public, he famously said, "Enough is $1 more than you need." It's a concept that really challenges us, I think, to define our own personal enough. What does financial security and freedom look like for you? And then to thoughtfully, intentionally build towards that.
Yeah. And that leads to maybe the final provocative thought for everyone listening.
Yeah.
What is your vision of enough? What does that freedom look like in your life? And maybe more importantly, what's one single consistent action, maybe small, maybe bigger, that you will take today to start or to continue your journey towards it?
A powerful question to ponder. We really hope this deep dive has given you some valuable insights, some practical steps, and maybe some inspiration to start building your own unique path to financial freedom. Until next time, keep digging for those nuggets of knowledge.